Hi, very good evening to all of you, and also a warm welcome to all our viewers who have joined us in the show. Welcome to our YouTube channel, Skeptra. I'm your host, Dr. Mani Iyer. Before we start, I request you to kindly subscribe to this channel and like this podcast. Also, share this video podcast with all your friends and relatives. This will go a long way in supporting us as well as produce many more such videos and bring them to you. All right, let's begin. Imagine this. Your child comes home from school. You ask, "How are you today? How was your day?" They smile and say, "Fine." They go straight to their room. No tears, no complaints, no dramatic stories, just fine. And as parents, we often breathe a sigh of relief. We assume everything is okay. But what if that one word, fine, he is hiding a child who spent the entire lunch break sitting alone? What if it belongs to a child who laughed along while being knocked because speaking up felt even scarier? Or perhaps a child who joined in making fun of someone else, not because they are cruel, but because they were terrified of becoming the next target. This is the difficult truth about childhood social struggles. Bullying doesn't always leave bruises. Peer pressure doesn't always look like someone forcing your child to do something. More often, it's silent. It hides a changed behavior, sudden secrecy, loss of confidence, the desperate need to fit in, or the fear of being left out. And because these signs are quiet, they often go unnoticed until a child is already carrying emotional wounds that better become much harder to heal. Today, we don't want us to think about bullying as simply good children versus bad children. We don't want us to think about peer pressure as kids making poor choices. We need to look beneath the behavior because behind almost every act of bullying, every child who gives in to peer pressure, and every child who silently suffers, there is a deep psychological story. A story about belonging, a story about identity, a story about fear, acceptance, and unmet social and emotional needs. When we begin to understand that inner story, we stop asking what's wrong with our child and start asking what this child is trying to tell us through their behavior. So that one shift can completely change how we respond, not only as parents, but as safe, but as the safe adults our children desperately need. So today we are joined by renowned psychologist, Ms. Namita Dariwal, who is going to unpack this and help us learn and how to recognize those silent signals before they become silent suffering. So, Namita Dhariwal ji, please welcome to the show. Namita Dhariwal is a counseling psychologist and expressive art therapist with experience working with children, adolescents, adults, and other adults integrating evidence based counseling with creative therapeutic approaches. She has done her MSc in counseling psychology from Christo Jayanti College, Bangalore, and BA in psychology from Kishan Chand Chelaram's College, Mumbai, trained in expressive arts therapy, Fortis Healthcare, Delhi, and currently pursuing an RCA approved advanced diploma in child guidance and counseling. Her expertise is in management of anxiety, stress, self-esteem, emotional regulation, relationships, parent guidance, child and adolescent mental health, and expressive art based interventions. She is currently the founder of Mukal Health Space, Healing Space, where she provides individual counseling, expressive arts therapy, parent guidance, and mental health workshops in Hindi, English, and Marwadi. She belongs to the Welcome to the show, Miss Namita ji, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maniji, for inviting me and for the introduction. And today we are going to cover about bullying and how it can be helpful for the parents to recognize if their child is going through something, being a victim or a bully. Yes. So, shall we begin?
Yes,
Yeah.
let me share.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can share your
Screen. And
screen.
okay. I hope my screen is visible to you.
Yes,
Okay. So we'll go to the first slide, which is where first we will just understand what bullying means. Now, what we see bullying is mostly that it can be something physical, but what it really means underneath is that you are trying to exert power over another person, which can not only be physical but also relational, verbal, sexual, which we do not really understand how. So, in relational, even gossiping about someone continuously can also be considered as bullying, be it giving silent treatment. And now that we are so much on social media, and when we laugh onto certain posts that we see of our classmates or someone being made fun of, it is also a kind of bullying that is happening to them. Yes, so that is there. And then there is also sexual bullying, wherein you make unwanted comments, gesture, or touch towards other person. So bullying is of several kind rather than one. And it is not like a lot of people hold this stereotype that, oh, it's basically the boys who bully. No, it's not gender specific. Anyone can bully, right? So we don't need to put any particular gender into that sensitive area like that. Yeah. And at the very core of it, it is just the struggle for power and belongingness that the bully goes through, because of which they end up making someone else the victim. Now, moving on, why children bully? Now, there are three reasons that children bully. What we focus upon is what the victim is going through, which is important. But what also is important is to go to the root problem, which is why the bully is happening in the first place. So, let's just take why children do that. First is when their needs are not incomplete, so they project their own pain, fear, shame onto someone else. So, for example, if I think I don't look good, so I will say, you are ugly, you are ugly, you are ugly, right? And this is a kind of verbal bullying that I'm doing to the other person because I am not confident about myself. In the same way comes the sense of power. People who feel helplessness at their homes are do have the tendency that they will try to grab this power by becoming a bully in their school or in their friend circle. In the same way, when they do not get attention at home and they feel like they need to get some attention, even in when we go back to our own school days, we know that there will be some people who will do things to get attention, right? That is where even negative attention feels better to them rather than being invisible. That also comes from the space that they become bully because they want to feel attended to, they want to feel seen. So what we really need to see is that not the action and then punish them, but what is really happening beyond that, which is basically that there is some need which is being incomplete, and that is acting out as they are bullying the other person. So, what we need to bring here as a parent for our child or as a teacher for our children is that instead of asking, what, why are you doing this? What did you do? You are like this, you are a bad boy, you are a bad girl. We need to see what is really happening. What need is this child trying to meet through this behavior is what we need to focus upon. Moving ahead, now we will talk about peer pressure. We all know what peer pressure in general means, which is where the children will try to change their behavior, attitude, value to fit into a group. Right now, it can be positive and negative, wherein if we are in a highly studious group, we will mimic their behavior. And in the negative sense, it happens when we start using substance, we start skipping classes, we ridicule other person. So again, at its core, this is also the child's need to belongingness, which makes them to get into peer pressure. So when a child is getting into peer pressure, the normal approach of a parent would be, oh, why are you copying them? Why do you want to do this because your friend is doing that? But what we really need to see is that beyond this is that they want to feel belonged. So that need being incomplete is because of which they are going for this peer pressure. Yes. Now,
Yeah.
why peer pressure happens again? It happens again because there is a developmental need. Now, when you see adolescents, they come under identity versus confusion lens. When you see them from a developmental lens, which means that they are trying to find their identity, they are confused, they're figuring themselves out. So at that point in time, they have this need to feel belonged, because that becomes part of their identity. So it's a very common phenomena that a child goes through. So we need to understand that this is going to happen with our child, but how much it happens depends upon other factors as well. Second comes from the fear of rejection. If I know that I would be rejected, or people will treat me differently because my choices are different, I will be excluded. And that's why I am going to mimic my group's behavior, because I want to feel inclusive. I want to have an identity. Yeah. And third comes experimentation, which is where you try new roles, being in a group, being a rebellious, being popular, being daring, because it is again part of your identity formation. And the last is, when a child has low self esteem, they will easily bow down to what the other person is telling them to do. And that's where again they get into peer pressure. So if it is really important that that parents need to make home feel safe, so that the child can have good self esteem, a good amount of self esteem, wherein they don't have to bow down to someone else to feel belonged and safe, wherein they just feel that it is safe but it's not really safe. Now, what
Okay.
are the silent, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hmm. Now, what are the silent signals of bullying and peer pressure? So, for victims, obviously, you will see a sudden change in their behavior, which is not uncommon for us to see. That we see a child and we see, oh, this child used to speak a lot and suddenly he's so withdrawn. He doesn't talk to anyone. He is not talking anymore. So that is when you need to understand that something might have happened to this child, which may be concerning. So there is sudden withdrawal, reluctance to go to school, loss of confidence, secrecy. What is bullies signal? They can be aggressive, they are rebellious, they're controlling, and they lie. And there can be shared signals as well, because both are experimenting with power. So they will feel, there will be feeling powerful. They will test the limits not only of the children, but also with teachers, with other academic staff, with also their parents. And lying is an experiment to see the consequences. So I'll take a minute to also talk about lie. So when a child lie to their parents, our normal approach is, why did you lie? You should never lie. And it may not be because they are bad, but it may be because they fear that truth won't be received with safety. Or that's why it is important that we create that safety for our child, that even if they are making any mistake and they know that they are lying about it, they also on the other hand know that I can be truthful to my parents and they will safely handle me with that. And that's why it's important that parents create that safety. There can be another reason for lying as well, which is where they are simply testing what happens if they bend the rules. So, one important thing for parents is that they need to stop reacting to everything that the child brings and start thinking beyond that. Why is my child doing what they are doing? What need is it that they are trying to tell me or trying to complete with the lie as well? Now, with peer pressure also, the signals are like there will be sudden changes in their clothing, music, slangs, or there may be a drop in their academic performance. There will be over secrecy in their life. Oh, please don't come into my room, don't check my phone, all of that. And they will be very over concerned with their phone, social media, and they may be in a risky behavior like substance abuse, late night going out and everything. And there can be excessive anxiety before schools or social events. This means that they must be under peer pressure. Now, understanding the victim. From trauma lens, impact depends on obviously frequency, type, and intensity. What are the effects? The effect is basically, obviously the child goes through shame, they go through anxiety symptoms, psychosomatic symptoms, and there is a fear of speaking up of what they have gone through. Even client comes to me that they were bullied in their school, and they all these years did not talk about it to anyone, and they are talking about it to me after like 10 years, 15 years that event has happened. So victim are scarred for a long period of time, even beyond what we can imagine. So what is the parental role over here if they get to know that okay, their child is maybe the victim of some bully in school? First is that they teach their children about boundaries, which is where they tell their children to name the discomfort rather than being in it. Yes, you be in the discomfort, but then you also name it so that you know that I need to come out of it. Second becomes that encourage them to problem solve, but don't push them to fight back. Yes, that how do they handle the situation for their favor rather than making it worse, which is also very important. Third becomes that we empower them with language wherein they also tell the bully that I don't like this, please stop, right? Which is where they start to speak up and take up a stand for themselves. And when the victim is telling their truth, it is very important that the parent take it with calmness rather than being panicky and judgmental towards them. And what is the most important is that if you identify your child going through something, you need to collaborate with school and take care of the and we don't need to like shame the bully, because again, as I said, if we are shaming the bully, we are judging them, and if you are judging them, then you are not seeing beyond what is happening with that bully as well. Now comes understanding the bully. First thing, as I've mentioned quite a few times, which is responding with curiosity, not shame. Second is firmly setting limits with them, that what is admissible, what is not admissible. Third is exploring the underlying needs. Is it powerlessness because of which they are doing? Is it the feeling of rejection, the need of being seen? Teaching them empathy and perspective taking, which is where you actively make them do a role play and make them see that if that was happening to you, how you would have felt. So just imagine how this child would have felt too. And one last thing, which is where you collaborate with school and seek support if pattern persist. So for parents, one important thing over here is also that when you look at your child, not just their words but their silences and their lies, their little experiment, see all of it and see what they might be trying to tell you about their inner world when they are communicating with you. So you observe your child in all the spaces rather than in spaces maybe when they are doing something actionable, because that's how you get to know about their inner world. Hmm. Now, understanding peer pressure, one thing about how you can help your child with if they are going into peer pressure is strengthen connection at home. And this is something that I've seen happening with my clients and with my parent session, that parents used to complain with that, oh, my child needs this and that because his friend circle is doing that. And when I told them that develop a connection with your child, sit more with them, play games with them, get to know more in their life, their child was automatically now stopped looking out for peer pressure a lot because they felt confident because their parents give them the confidence. So one important thing is the children need to feel safe and valued at their home, so they're less dependent on peers for their identity. And there need to be rituals at home like shared meals, one to one conversation, bedtime conversation. Teach them critical thinking and values. Help children to reflect that what do you think about this choice. So when the child is like, oh, I want this because my friend have this, that's when the parent has to be like, what do you think about it? How would you still take this decision tomorrow? Or and how about we can talk about this action tomorrow if not today, right? So you're giving them some space to think about it rather than just emotionally acting out in the moment. So discuss scenarios openly about drinking, smoking, because these are the topic that parents shy away from talking. Even if you are shying away from talking about these things, your child already has been introduced to all of these things in school, because there is media now. Everyone knows everything. So your shying away is just making it worse, because then you're increasing the probability of them to actually experiment it before their age. So it's important that you hold these conversation openly with them, and there shouldn't be any scolding, but like, okay, if you have any questions about drinking, smoking, mocking someone, skipping schools, bring it up, right? Then comes model boundaries. If a parent is going through something in their own home, they need to say no. That's when the child sees that, okay, if my father and mother can say no to these people, even I can. So modeling is really important. So that's when the child will stop taking the pressure. If the parent is themselves are taking pressure from their own family, from their own friends and work, then they will see that okay, you are going to be pressured in your life and you need to take that. Fourth comes normalize discomfort. Teach them that it's okay to feel uncomfortable saying no, that when you are going to say no you will feel the discomfort, but that's okay. So courage is not the absence of fear, but choosing values despite fear. And last thing is collaborate, don't lecture, which is where if I come and I give a monologue, oh, you know what, you need to do this is how you're supposed to go. The child is not going to entertain that. What we need to do is sit with them and ask them what you could do over there. What do you think would be healthy for you? If you had another chance to handle the situation, how would you handle that? Yes, I know it's hard when everyone is doing something and you feel left out. Let's think together of what feels right to you in this moment. What do you think we can work upon together? So you're collaborating rather than, oh, you know what, I am the speaker, you are the listener. That's when the child will like, oh, I can do this, I can do this. And that's where you get to bond and connect with your child. Now comes the closing reflection, and then we have just one more slide. Is where the key lessons of what we have done, what we have discussed so far, is that bullying and peer pressure are basically just about the unmet needs and belongingness. It's not about good versus bad kids. Victim and bully both show silent signals. So our job is to listen beneath the behavior. Third, as I said, keep curiosity, because curiosity creates safety. Judgment just deepens shame for them. And stop minimizing, oh, just kids fighting, oh, you don't need to take it seriously. If a child is coming and telling you that they did not feel comfortable, we need to take it seriously, because if you start to minimize, they will start minimizing it, and then they are going to go their whole life minimizing every issue that will come to them. And a reflective question for you all tonight: when you see your children, whether quiet or outspoken, pause and ask yourself, what might their silence, their mood, or even their little lies be trying to tell me about their inner world? So just see your child beyond of what they are trying to communicate, because they are communicating non-verbally every moment to you. You just need to see that. And bullying and peer pressure, yes, are two sides of the same coin. And bullying often begins as peer pressure, and peer pressure keeps bullying alive. So the silence of the group gives the bully power, and the fear of exclusion keeps victim quiet. So this is what happens a lot. So both are really about one thing, which is child desperately need to be feel belonged. So and victim faces double pressure, because they are not able to speak, as they aren't because if they speak they will be labeled as weak or complainers. And to endure a silence, they also endure the silence so that they can be socially connected. So it's really important to identify the victims and do something about it. And even sometimes it can go to a point wherein victim start mimicking bullies behavior, so that and they can feel safer rather than feeling powerless. So that was it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Namita ji. See, we learned a lot from the session, particularly regarding bullying and other things. And basically, we understood what is this bullying beyond the physical aggression and the psychology of peer pressure and why belongingness matters a lot so deeply during the childhood and adolescence. Also, viewers got to know what are the silent warning signs parents often overlook, and understanding the emotional world of both the victim and the child who bullies, and practical strategies for parents to strengthen communication, build resilience, and help children navigate difficult social situations, and creating and for especially for parents in creating a good home environment where children feel safe enough to talk about their problems. So this was a great session. Parents definitely will have a deeper understanding of children's social emotional struggles, practical tools you have given to identify early warning signals, and evidence informed strategies to support their child with empathy, confidence, and connection. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you. So we look forward to meeting you on another session like this. Until then, thank you very much. Goodbye. Bye-bye. And also to viewers, we will connect with you soon with, Namita ji. Thank you very much, Namita ji. Good day to you. Have a great day ahead. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Maniji.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.